Join us today in conversation with Michaela and Rani from Antyx Community Arts. I'm your host for today's conversation, which is part of I Will Week. I Will Week is an annual celebration of youth social action across the UK. And for those that are new or unfamiliar to the term social action, it's just about people coming together to help improve their lives, solve the problems that are important in our communities. It can include volunteering, campaigning, fundraising, community action, or simple neighbourly acts. And from my research, this is exactly what Antyx Community Arts aim to do with young people, and they're doing it through the form of community arts. So we know that young people across the UK are leading on social change. We've seen it on street level, regionally, online as well, especially during this pandemic and in national forums. But we also know that youth action is not just happening in the UK, it's happening all over the world. The more we connect with young people from different places, spaces, the more we can learn and collaborate from each other and with young people leading social action across the globe. So quite fittingly to that today, we're going to explore these national and international connections. And I'm really delighted to welcome Michaela and Rani, who are young people from an organisation based out in Canada, so quite far away from the UK today, called Antyx Community Arts. So they fuse art and community development and create opportunities for young people to become more integrated in their community. So the community art projects include painting, community murals, creating video projects, dance, spoken word programs, and large-scale sculptures, such as turning a horse trailer into a mobile playground, and hosting some environmental gatherings and meetups as well. So Antyx Community Arts aims to give social action a more creative and imaginative outlet, transforming its traditional form. The aim behind their work has had several beneficial outcomes beyond building the local community, because learning new artistic skills has also benefited young people's development and mental well-being. The success behind Antyx Community Arts initiative is therefore unlimited. So I'm gonna stop talking so much now, and I'm gonna welcome our wonderful guests for today. So Michaela and Rani, thank you for having a conversation with me today for I Will Week. And I think, we're going to jump right in, because what you're doing out there is just perfect for this I Will Week, and I really want to, get talking about it. So first question I've got today is, just tell me a bit about how you got involved.
So I was in a club in my high school called Peer Ambassadors, which is basically like engaging the high school students to do community work. And Antics did a presentation at my high school. Basically, they were talking about how they were starting up that week, and they had a bring a friend day. So obviously I brought my sister because, she's already there. And so then we went there. We actually had a lot of fun with the other youth because we were just playing games, icebreakers, and I really enjoyed it there. So I just kept coming back.
So I was in junior high, so a long time ago. And I started attending this youth center, Cornerstone Youth Center in Calgary. And one of the social workers there basically came up to me and was like, "You're a leader." And I was like, "I don't even know what that means." And she's like, "Here's a business card to the Alex Food Center, which partners with Antics." And she's like, "Just go to this program." And so I started going to this program, and it was like this 8-week cooking program. And it was like a trial run to see if we could like extend the program. And so I just like went one day, and I was so nervous. I was like, I have no idea what's happening. And then I just loved it so much. I kept coming back, and I've been a part of Antics for the last 5-6 years now.
And it sounds like you both kind of didn't plan to get involved. You just both fell into it. It just both happened by chance. So both of you came across it and then just got like really involved and loved it, and then never left. Which is pretty much how I got involved with my social action back here in the UK. Again, I just went one day to become a volunteer and loved it, and just kept coming back, and then getting more and more involved. So it's crazy, like what you can just find randomly and fall into it, and things just seem to end nicely, which is good to hear. So yeah, both of you, if you tell me what projects you've been involved with since you've been with Antics, what sort of stuff have you been doing?
Yeah, so like I said, I've been involved with Antics for 5 or 6 years now. So there's so many projects that I've been involved with. But I guess like starting at like the very beginning, we did a municipal dinner election kind of thing, where we brought in all the candidates who were running for the mayoral election, and we basically just like had a big speech and like a music video about food insecurity and like how that would impact them and like how that impacts us, and like what we want to see more of like if they were to get elected. So like Nenshi was there at the time, and like it was like this huge event. So that was kind of like the very beginning. And then we moved, we took like a year off, still like ran program, but from big projects. And we did a children's book, which was called Tales to Melantopia, the story of the missing magic. So we basically just on Halloween one day, we were like, oh, it would be so cool if we like made a children's book. And we just like started like building all these characters, and then created the book on, once again, food security. So we had lots of fun characters like Farmer Tom and like GMO Gina, and we had this big event that was held, and there was like this big reading, and Ronnie was a part of like reading the book to the whole audience, which was awesome. So we worked on that for a year, and then we worked, did some podcasting, some smaller podcasting in our group, around food insecurity and social justice issues that we're really passionate about. And then we have actually just recently started this sketchbook project, which I was lucky enough to actually be hired on to do as a youth facilitator. So essentially we all got sketchbooks. So they're like these little tiny sketchbooks, and we got youth to fill them through programming, and they're going to be put in the Calgary Public Library on full display within the next couple of months here. So I think we've had like over 300 youth participate in this project, which is amazing, in person and online programs that we've been running just to get them like creativity flowing and like become artists. So that's a really cool ongoing project. And then, like I said, I've also been involved with a whole bunch of murals. So we just finished our diversity mural that we've been working on for like over a year because of COVID. We had to stop. We came back to that and we like finished that over the summer. And then we have like a poetry and spoken word book that we did last year. So many projects that I've been involved in, and I'm sure Ronnie can probably explain more about those, but yeah.
Basically what Michaela was in, but before Antics, basically I joined Antics before it was partnered up with What Feeds Us. So we did a little bit of more projects before we partnered up with the youth center or the Alex Food Center. So I started in 2016. But before we partnered up, we did an MHM Feel Alive campaign, which was basically promoting mental health awareness. And then we did a lot of like improv. So we threw a random bus stop party once just to like break people out of social habit. That was fun. And then we also did tea parties at Tim Hortons, and it was just so weird because we were all dressed up and having this fancy tea parties. But yeah, basically I was involved with the same projects that Michaela was involved. The bigger ones being the book, that the books that we wrote and the murals that we painted, and it was just a lot of fun. We also did, basically in COVID, me and Michaela did a campaign called Through the Window, where we basically wrote messages on our wall, or we put messages on our windows and took a picture of it and posted it to social media about our feelings during COVID and messages of support. And we also did another campaign called Listen to Me, where we wrote, basically advocated social messages on posters. And then we went, me and a fellow youth went on International Women's Day to the Calgary Public Library to promote the campaign. Basically, everybody would add on social messages to posters that would be displayed all across the city.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been involved in like so many different projects. You're also tackling like so many different issues for each one. So it's not always the same. It's just different social action and targeting those different problems. So it's like a really big array of what you're doing out there. which is like really good to hear, and really hopefully inspiring to the I Will listeners that are listening to this video as well, that they can like find out about all the different stuff. One that I've had a look at is the Alone Together project. So that's the poetry one. And again, that's another pandemic related one. So, you know, really important stuff that you were doing through that pandemic. And yeah, so do you want to tell me about the Alone Together one? Were you working on that, or was it different people? And yeah, poetry, how was using that? How about, you know, using those different artistic and creative mediums to kind of get your social action across?
So basically, when we were doing the poetry project, it was like they taught us different styles of photo and poetry. So we would talk about first the different styles of photos that we can create, like, and we talked about the techniques like third rule and everything. And then we did various poetry exercises, like the sensory poem, like I touch, I feel, and those types of things. It was really unique. I personally liked writing poetry, so I found myself really enjoying that project. Photos I'm not good at, but like we still managed to pull through. But like it was really fun. But they would be about different social issues. One of the things that we did was we took a photo and we uploaded it to the Pinterest board. And then when everybody's photos would be uploaded, we would pick one and then write a poem about it. And I think that was amazing. Yeah, Michaela, do you want to elaborate on what I'm saying?
Yeah, so we actually had like some special artists like come in and like help us write poetry and like take photos and really like learn about the art form, because personally for me, I've always been like scared of poetry for some reason. I just like, I find my medium is more like painting and stuff. And so having like these special artists like come in and be like, okay, like this is like how you break it down. Like, let's help you like write a piece that you're going to be really proud of, was really helpful. So we had like artists come in, I think it was like every other week, just to like help us with that. And then yeah, like Ronnie said, like lots of smaller activities, sensory poems, just like group poems and all of that stuff. And then yeah, taking photos ourselves and then pulling them off of the internet, writing poetry over top, and like really expressing different social justice issues. So there was like lots of stuff about the pandemic, because it was like mid-pandemic, it was last summer. And then also there's like lots of like Black Lives Matter, lots of like feminism pieces. I think there was like a few grad pieces. Like I graduated high school in 2020, so that was like a big thing for me, because I didn't get a normal grad, so I wrote some poetry about that, and just a lot of like stuff like that. And then yeah, we all just came together and made this wonderful book that we decided on Alone Together, just because like during the pandemic, it's like it's so easy to feel like we're being pulled apart and that we are alone and isolated. But this program like taught us that like we can all be together and that we are all going through the same thing during this time. Like it's a worldwide pandemic. That's just a little bit about how we were involved.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And it's really good to see that through that pandemic, like really difficult times, you still created such beautiful work as well. So that's really promising to hear. And just two things that I picked up on, you both said when you were answering the question, oh, I really like poetry, but I'm not good at the photographs, or like vice versa, I like painting, but actually I don't feel confident doing doing the poetry. So do you find that like when people hear the word art, they think, well, I'm not good at art, or I'm not creative, or I'm not good at drawing, and they, you know, they think, well, I haven't got those skills, I'm not going to be good at that. So what advice would you give to young people that are trying to engage with that creative side, they're trying to get in that social action, but they just think, well, I've never done art, I've never done drawing. How do you overcome that and, you know, gain that confidence to do it?
It's actually funny because yesterday I was running a sketchbook project and a youth came in and we're like, what's your favorite art form? And they're like, I'm not good at art. And we're like, no, like we promise, like you are good at art. I think the big thing is just being confident in yourself. I think confidence is like the biggest thing you can do for yourself in the art industry. And just like having fun. So like, what is your passion? What is your purpose behind like what you're creating? And art comes in so many different forms. It doesn't have to be painting or drawing. It can be poetry, it can be spoken word, it can be theater, like podcasting is even a form of art, music, everything. It's just like about like embracing your creativity, and finding your passion and your purpose behind like what you are creating and putting out into society. And I would say like the big thing is like taking risks. You're not going to love every single art piece you make. You're going to love some more than others, but I think at the end of the day, it's like as long as you're taking risks and you're challenging yourself, and that's like a big thing we do at Antics. I know like when I was helping facilitate Youth Arts Action North, um, during the pandemic, and we had these sketchbooks, and one of the facilitators is like, I just want you to I want you to crack the spine of your sketchbook and I want you to just rip a page out. And we were all so terrified. We're like, we can't do it. Like, we can't rip out a page in our sketchbooks because they have to be perfect. But I think that's like the misconception about art, is that art always has to be perfect, and it doesn't. Art can be chaotic. It can be whatever you want it to be. And so once we like all like broke the spine of our sketchbooks and like ripped out a page, it's like we felt so free, and we're like, okay, whatever we create here today is a piece of art, and it's great. Obviously there's always room for improvement, but like the number one rule we have is no dissing yourself. So like constructive criticism essentially. But yeah, I would say be creative, take risks, and just find your passion and purpose behind what you're making.
Yeah, I really like that, and I like the advice, no dissing yourself. I think that's great, especially like sometimes I can be such a perfectionist with everything that I'm doing. I think, well, it's not good enough, I need to start again, like this is not good. So just kind of having that, feeling confident and just thinking, I'm just going to move on, I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing anyway, even though it's not looking how I wanted it to look, but I'm still going to just keep going with it. And you know, you can always like add more, just do another one, start again. It's never the end of the world if you like get paint on the wrong bit of the color, or you know, you make a paint splatter by accident, it goes wrong. You can always just keep trying, I think. Yeah, so no dissing yourself is definitely one advice that I'm gonna take away today. Yeah.
The advice that I would give, well, I'd give two ones. First one is don't limit yourself. And the second one would be don't judge yourself or base yourself off of somebody else's work. Like I know that like we have really great painters and artists of our time. Like when I think of artists, I think of like the main ones, you know, like Picasso and Leonardo da Vinci and all those types of stuff. Then I look at my work and I'm like, that does not even compare. But you know, art is unique and it's expressive, but it's you, and you don't have to, like, the no dissing rule is actually a very true rule, because you can't diss your work, because you can't compare your work to anybody else's, because it's your work and there's only one you to do it. And don't ever limit yourself. Like I remember when we started this the storybook project, and I had to write some pages. The only things that I would think about is how bad my writing was in high school and all my grades in high school and all my essays. And I'd be like, God, this is not going to turn out well. But then letting that go, and I'm just like, you know what? We're just going to write it and see what happens. And all of a sudden it turned out well. Because when you let go of like the negativity that you have, you actually find that there's not a lot of things about it to criticize, because, you know, it's you. And even I was really unconfident as a drawer, because I never really did like art class in school, and I never really did well on art projects. But, you know, when you create an environment where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to do the best that I can, and I'm not going to like think about anything else. I'm just going to sit and really draw, or it doesn't matter what happens, and I'm just going to do my best and just draw it out. You actually realize that everything works out. And while I was continuing my drawing, I went from like, I didn't like my piece to I liked it right away, because there was nothing to compare off of. And I think that was a really strong point in the entire journey.
Yeah, so some great advice there from Rani, Michaela. No dissing your work and don't compare yourself, your work to others. That's some really, really good words there for everyone listening. So Antyx Community Arts advocate for bringing young people and creating change in their communities through art. So Rani and Michaela, what do you think is needed to empower more people, more young people, more organizations to have the confidence to think outside the box, to make some noise for change and, get things kind of moving in a better direction in the UK and obviously abroad as well?
My tip would be, not everything that you think is little, because whatever you do, you're still doing something. So there's nothing really little or big about what you're doing, because you're still doing something and you're still creating a change. And in brainstorming, the first step is always to think, not considering any factors, but just think of the craziest ideas, even the crazy ones, the big ones, but just think of all of them. But yeah, don't really limit yourself into being like, whoa, but this isn't possible. Don't ever think about the possibilities at first. Just keep thinking, and you'll realize that as a group or by yourself or wherever you are, that when you start thinking of the bigger, crazier ideas, usually those are the ones that you end up doing and that actually work. But yeah, that would be my advice. Michaela?
Yeah, I honestly love the advice Ronnie just gave. I would say another thing is that small change can also equal big change in the right group of people. So my biggest advice, find people who have the same passion as you, and then just work together as a team and build off of that, and just come up with small pieces of change and bigger ones, and just, it doesn't always have to be this huge big project that changes the whole entire world, because that doesn't happen overnight. That takes time, and something as simple as making Valentine's Day cards for seniors, that's still creating a change. We always say, holding the door open for someone can change someone's day. It really can. So sometimes that can be just as impactful as the big projects that we're doing. And then I know I say this every single time I talk about Antics, but there's a quote and I absolutely live by it, and Ronnie's probably heard it a million times. But it's a society grows best when old men plant trees whose shade they know they will never sit under. It's my grad quote. It's something I absolutely live by, and I think it's so true. Of the change you're making today, you may not see the result of it, but that doesn't mean it's not impacting someone. You're planting seeds for future generations to come, and you're building a legacy for yourself. We're leaders today and legends tomorrow, is what I always like to say as well. And so just put yourself out there, get involved in any way possible. It can be super small, it can be big scale. I think success looks different for all individuals. So don't think that you need to just go out and change the world all by yourself. I think as a community we can do that together, but it has to start small. We have to plant those seeds first and watch the trees grow after. So
yeah, that's really, really good advice. And what you're saying about planting trees even though they know that they'll never sit in the shade is let's say you start doing something, you're starting on your journey of social action and you want to make a change and you're not seeing immediate results. Things, if you got to work, if you're working hard at something, sometimes it does take that extra bit of time. You're not going to get there straight away. It's not going to be instant. So just my advice would be to just have a bit of faith in what you're doing, and know that if you're doing the work, you're doing what you can, you're making those changes, and it is going to turn into something, it is going to get there. If it isn't immediate, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't be hard on yourself thinking, oh, I've done all this and nothing's happened and nothing's changing. It will, just sometimes you just have to hold tight and just wait a bit. Yeah, so I think patience as well is a good one. Yeah. So that's all my questions for today. But I think if there's any leading notes that you want to leave on, just a little phrase or anything that you just want to have as like a motto for the I Will listeners, and then we'll wrap it up after that.
Don't be afraid to embrace who you are, and always push, even though there might not be anything showing. Just keep pushing for it, you know?
Be yourself. You know, you're your biggest critique. And if you think you can't do something, like that's going to hold you back. So just take risks, get involved in any way possible. And I think everything else will fall in place. There is no accidents in life. Like for me, I was literally handed a business card, and here I am 6 years later as like a part-time staff with Antics. So anything is possible. And you just like have to find opportunities.
Yeah, I think one of mine has got to be good things take time. So I think, like what I was saying earlier, just have faith, hold on, and just know that your work will pay off at the end, and eventually, you know, you will get to where you want to be. And I'm going to do two. I'm going to do another one. I think my second one has got to be, there's always a solution. So similar to what you were saying, Michaela, you handed a business card and here you are. Like, no matter where you are, whether you're in a low place or things haven't gone your way, there's always a solution, and things will fall into place eventually. Yeah. So that's all we're going to have time for today, but I just want to say a huge thank you to Michaela and Rani. Some really interesting thoughts there, and you know, thanks for being so honest with your advice, and you know, being here for today. And we hope you enjoyed it. We hope that the I Will listeners are going to get I think there's some really valuable advice out there from the guests, so hopefully you take something from that and you're feeling positive about today's chat. So today's conversation was just one of the many events and activities that we're doing for I Will Week. So just remember to visit that website, iwill.org.uk, to see the full listing of events, activities, and some other conversations that we've been having throughout the week. If you've enjoyed the session, please tell everyone, please share it. You can tag I Will Movement, hashtag I Will Week 21, and Power of Youth on all your social media, and check out Antyx Community Arts. They've got Instagram, you can have a look. There's some good pictures on there. I've done a lot of looking, and a website as well. So thank you.